Drummer's Universe.
Hi everybody, hi Drummers Universe, hi, I would like to introduce you to our special guest who actually needs no introduction. You'll recognise him immediately, Mr. Spike T. Smith. Round of applause. Thank you so much, Spike, for joining us. And you're looking great, and I'm loving the background that you've got. I see Killing Joke, The Damned. Oh, crikey, there's an array there. So that should give our members a big clue as to who we're talking to. Spike and punk rock go hand in hand. So I think we'll dive straight into it, Spike, but I'm not going to ask you a question about drumming just yet and bands. One of our team members at Drummers Universe, we were chatting the other day, because you know we have a big team of moderators in the background, yes. All drummers, and then there's 108,000 drummer members now. And wow. I was saying, I'm having a chat with Spike for a podcast for us. And I don't want to ask him the usual questions, because I'm sure you've done a gazillion interviews and everything. So guys, what do you think? Come up with some original questions for Spike. So I have to tell you about Callum, one of our drummers, who is the drummer for Wild Youth here in Ireland. They just missed out. Callum McAdam, shout out Cal, he's awesome. Callum sent a great one. So this is for you, Callum. What is your favourite topping on a sandwich?
Oh, my favourite topping, God. Well, I suppose a topping isn't really like the ingredients, right?
Yeah, the middle bit.
Yeah, okay. So the middle bit. God, it changes all the time. But I tell you what I really like. An egg and salad cream sandwich.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. And what about a sandwich spread?
Well, I'm not really a sandwich spread kind of guy. And I'll tell you why. I'm a bit funny with sandwiches because I don't have butter or margarine. So I'm funny about anything that kind of gets that sort of greasy vibe on the sandwich,
Oh, so that's why
I feel it's greasy. So I like it sort of the traditional where I know I either done it myself or, would have started with my mother, my mum, and make me a sandwich where I know that because I don't like it with mayonnaise either.
Oh, no. I do like mayonnaise on mine, I have to say. But so that was one. And then one of our other team came up with a great one about shoes. When you're drumming, have you got your special drumming shoes? Ones that you gig with, or does it change?
Well, actually, yeah, that's always an interesting one because I do tend to sort of favour footwear for drumming, and it tends to always be. I prefer something that's quite worn. That's a consistent factor of something that that I've had for years. And I mean, I can wear almost anything, and I have done over the years. But generally, I like something that's light and warm. So I don't like wearing kind of clumpy, big trainers or even like light running shoes, because even though they might be light, they don't feel that, if they don't feel really broken in, they make me feel somewhat clumsy.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm the same. I've got a pair of shoes that I have had for, it's got to be 18 years or so now, and they are
Yeah.
so well worn in. And I had a meltdown once because, you know, when you're packing gear up, if you've done a gig and you're putting your own things away, and I couldn't find my shoes because I'd
Yeah.
already changed my shoes into my going out outside shoes, and
Yeah.
I couldn't find them anywhere. And I've phoned the venue the next day. I'm like, I don't. And our singer at the time had said, "Can I help you?" Normally, I
Yeah.
would say, "No, I don't need it. No, I just
Yeah.
like to
Yeah.
know where
Yeah.
everything is and who's putting stuff where."
Because.
The next gig comes up. Don't I just find them in my cymbal bag?
Oh, right. Okay.
So I have special drumming shoes.
Yeah. Well, it's it is a good thing, and yeah, it's one of those little quirky things, isn't it? I mean, I can, and sometimes for whatever reason have had to play in whatever, but yeah, generally when it comes down to it, when it generally, yeah, I could be considered to be particular about that. I certainly never sort of just play a gig with whatever I've got on that day or whatever. I've always got something there that are my playing shoes or playing pumps, really.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
And so, are there any other things, Spike? One of the other questions that came up was, have you got any kind of non-negotiables, when you go on tour, or like things that you need to do before you actually go on stage? Um,
Yeah, I always, like to have somewhere where I can warm up.
yeah,
And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. And depending what I'm playing will determine what I might be, focused on warming up. So, generally it would be, like a pad. And I also have, I'll get them out here. These sticks, they're metal sticks. Can you see
oh
them?
yeah, I've got some purple ones.
Oh, yeah, yeah, they're very
Yeah,
heavy, right?
yeah, yeah.
They're great for kind of, when you're just on, obviously, you can only use them on a pad and definitely not on the drum.
No.
So I take these a lot with me, and, I have them and a pad, and I use them. The reason that I use them and sort of like tend to want, like the time to warm up is I don't like going on cold when I'm playing, fast music.
Yeah,
I just, like I don't like to go on where I find myself, like feeling like I'm struggling, towards the end of the first song, or
yeah,
or that it takes me, three or four songs before I'm kind of super loose.
right.
I mean, sometimes it can't be helped. And up until fairly recently, I was involved, with a death metal band, and that was the same for my legs and feet.
Yeah,
Because we used to go straight in and there would be relentless double bass drumming. I'd have to find myself somewhere to just, to warm up my legs.
yeah, definitely.
So, much more so than I would generally ever feel I'd need to do for a more, like typical gig.
Yeah, yeah,
And so with that, if I could, I would take leg weights and put them on, and then just find somewhere. Nothing elaborate, I didn't have pedals and practice pads. It would just be sort of like on the floor, but just by kind of, having them on and working my legs with a metronome and a set of sticks on a pad or even a chair.
yeah,
It's just something that like I really like to do now. And that's kind of, I mean, I say non-negotiable. If you get to the show and for whatever reason things are going, all over the place, then everything's negotiable, isn't it?
exactly.
but if everything's going the way it should, then that's something for me that's
Yeah,
that's in, it's it's important. It's a little bit ritualistic, I suppose.
Yeah,
I like to do it. I
yeah,
like to sort of separate myself from whatever's going on to right. Now we're getting ready for the job in hand.
yeah. And you've got to be fit. I mean, the stamina needed for the style of drumming that you're most known for. I mean, I know that you have got a wide variety of genres as well that you are more than capable in. Um, but for particularly the punk stuff, Sham 69. I mean, your gigs are just full on, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, they still like to play with a lot of energy and very little time in between the songs, really.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so the interesting thing with it is even when we do stop, the little the little thing with it is that as soon as the Jimmy introduces the song title, we've got to go. We count. I count in. A lot of the songs are counted in.
Mm.
And as soon as he said, da 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 da, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, so
You're off.
sometimes I'm, even though we finished the song, I'm reluctant to grab a drink or to sort of turn away, or because I'm thinking, I don't know how long,
Yeah.
it's going to be. It's never very long,
Right.
but sometimes it's much shorter than that
Time to get
what
your
I
breath
might be
back.
anticipating.
Yeah. Oh, take us back a bit, Spike, because I'm sure I know amongst our team, we've got fans of like if I mention Killing Joke and The Damned, I mean the guys all know and have all been fans at some point in their lives. But take us back. How did you get into the punk scene and into like what was your first band, for example?
Okay, yeah, well, I'm a, you mentioned all those bands that I've been fortunate enough to, to play with or to play for.
Mm.
I mean, I'm a fan of them as well. I
Yeah,
mean, that's how it all started for me. I mean, it started for me with the drums, with the Damned. I was, like I'd got into punk. I mean, for those who don't know, I'm from Anglesey, North Wales, from Holyhead,
yeah,
the port. And around the time when I was, young, about sort of 12, when I was in my first year in secondary school, I started going to the youth club discos, which were, like a bit of a thing then.
yeah,
And they would be playing the different, records of the day, and they'd have generally it'd be the discos then where this thing where it was mainstream mainly, but they would have pockets of something for the rockers there, and then a few songs for the Northern Soul,
yeah,
Motown, like boys and girls, and then they'd have a punk section. A little bit later, they'd have a mod two-tone section, and that's how I kind of got introduced to the punk thing. And I'd always been into music. My dad was a musician. I was heavily into rock and roll from when I was a very young, boy, listening to his collection. He had a good, you know, record collection. As I mentioned, he was a musician. He was a guitarist. So I had a musical bug from very young. But once I started going to these discos a little bit older, not very old in the grand scheme of things, I mean, I was 12,
yeah,
and I started hearing the punk stuff. That's how I got into that. Then one night I seen the Damned on a program called the Old Grey Whistle Test. It was a program where the bands played live, well, live in the studio. And that was my moment of like, watching that scabies is like, wow, I want to be a drummer.
yeah.
So, and then 20 years later, almost to the sort of, well, no, not quite to the, yeah, just pretty much 20 years later, I ended up playing in the Damned.
Amazing. What was that like?
Mad. Yeah. I mean, it was funny because when I played the first show with them, and that's this one actually. It was in Spain, in Valencia.
Yeah.
I just remember while I was on stage watching, Dave, Vanian and Captain Sensible doing doing their thing, but in front of me, and I had a flashback to watching them on telly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though I'd obviously seen them a lot since and had been to see them live myself, I
Yeah.
just had a weird flashback,
Yeah.
of seeing them as I was watching it on my telly in my living room,
Yeah.
in 1979,
Yeah.
But the first band that I had, which I formed
Amazing.
there, was called Alternative Attack. And, it was a typical little band of the time that, you do when you're young. And, it's pretty much, it was an idea, and pretty much every punk, and there wasn't a great deal of it, but, every punk in Holyhead at some point was part of the band in some way, It was everybody was just trying to find their way into music, I suppose.
Right.
That was the thing. I mean, people hadn't started playing their instruments. Well, some hadn't. I had. I did have my first drum kit, so I was clear that I was going to be the drummer. But others still hadn't. And yeah, that was the beginnings for me. So
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, finding yourself in that position, I totally get that. I had the pleasure of playing in the RTE Studio One
Oh,
a
wow.
while back,
Yeah.
and playing a U2 song, was like a pinch me moment. So I completely get that. It was, oh, I think Larry sat in this stool. It was one of those
Yeah.
like,
What song did you play?
and you just about lose it, don't you?
What song did you do?
Yeah. Well, it was a different song in there, but one of the bands I played with an all-female rock band, and the first time we did a St Patrick's Day gig, and so we had a completely Irish set list, and the first time playing Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, I almost froze at one point. It just gets you, doesn't it, when it's
Yeah, definitely does.
yeah.
God, yeah.
Have you got any albums like that, Spike, that you go back to time and time again?
Oh God, I've got loads of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all of the records from that time that were the big albums for me are still there. I mean, as we said, or as I said, the bands that I was a fan with or that I played for, I still listen to, to those records, a lot of them. Um, I mean, I'm a massive fan of Bad Brains. I don't know if you know them, but they're kind of seen as, the pioneers or one of a bunch of pioneers of the whole American hardcore scene, but
Right.
they were like four Rastafarians. So it was really wild, especially, at the turn of the 80s,
Yeah. Yeah.
and, I played for HR, the singer. In fact, I played with him on this tour over here last summer. And they floated between hardcore punk and really rootsy dubby reggae.
Yeah.
And I still listen to their records a lot. And it was beautiful to play, because HR, the singer, he pretty much plays exclusive reggae now.
Right.
So it's a reggae set, but with a number of the Bad Brains reggae tunes. So that was, is amazing.
Yeah.
I listen to them all. I mean, the Dead Kennedys, I loved. I still listen to them. I was listening to them today.
Oh yeah, I haven't heard them for a long time.
Of course, the Sex with the Damned.
Yeah.
All of them, Killing Joke. Yeah, pretty much all of them. I still like to listen to, the rock and roll, artists that I used to listen to before punk.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
always loved Buddy Holly, Elvis, of course, Little Richard. All the names really, but all the greats.
Yeah.
All the greats.
Yeah.
So, and that's the going back. I'm interested in and I like to check out, music as it currently is and things like that. But yeah, I mean, you know what it's like, for people like us. You've lived through those records. They're a big part of your life, aren't they?
Yeah,
So,
completely. Absolutely. And songs, music, a song can take you back to a time and a place in a flash, can't it?
yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
wonderful.
exactly
Yeah,
that. So,
yeah, we're so blessed.
yeah, it's funny because when I listen to, like, yes, those records, it takes me back almost immediately to when I first heard it,
Yeah, absolutely.
or the period of. So,
Yeah,
like when I was listening to that Dead Kennedys album today, it was like, yeah, spring 1983. That's when I heard it.
right.
Just for a moment. I
Yeah.
don't spend my time sort of wallowing in that
No, but it
all the
just
time, but I
takes you
get just
there. Yeah,
a fleeting glimpse of,
definitely.
the period where I got it,
Yeah,
and I don't mind that. I think that's a beautiful thing.
yeah. I mean, looking at you playing now, it's there's no difference to looking at you playing back then. You're still, but you're also an educator, aren't you? I mean,
I am,
you've just done this lovely thing with Palace Drum Clinic, and I was with Matt recently at the Galway Drum Show. Matt did his Bonham thing there, masterclass. It was fantastic. But the app that they've created, your section is fantastic. How did that come about?
Well, so I got to know Matt through the drum show, the Simon Wagstaff's drum show that he
The
puts on.
vintage
The
show.
vintage drum show. That was the look. Oh, I was thinking antique. That's not right. Yeah, vintage drum show. I got to know Matt through that, and I'd gone. He knew I was an educator, and the thing is what I've been more interested in doing. Generally as an educator, I'm an educator, but within the world of sort of drumming and on the grander, in the grander scheme of things, I've tried to sort of think, well, I want to find where's my niche for it. What can I offer that's, somewhat unique. I'm not saying totally unique, but somewhat. And I thought, well, you know, I, I can sort of like, like offer a lot of insight and advice on punk drumming, but I even take it away from that word and call it just say high energy drumming.
Right.
Because there's a lot of, like there's a lot of, you know, um, variance in that. I mean, you could say punk drumming, but then there's punk drumming the same as thrash metal drumming. Is thrash metal the same as death metal drumming, or is like punk drumming? Okay, what about hardcore drumming? What about post punk drumming? What about funk punk drumming? And on and on and on it goes. So I kind of sort of put it under the sort of general banner, which is just high energy playing, because I see them all as in a somewhat similar a similar sort of genre or sphere, with and the thing is with them is that, as the term suggests, it's all pretty much high energy.
Right.
There's no sort of let go. So when I'd been speaking with Matt, I'd been saying, well, you've got your person to do the jazz, like he, they particularly focus on this, the Bonham thing currently. And so I said, well, what about the punk thing? Who's covering that?
Yeah.
Because there isn't a lot there isn't a lot out there from a sort of an education, educational. There's somewhat, but as an educator, there's not an awful lot out there. I mean,
Right.
when you see, lineups for drum shows, or quite a lot like more educational sort of camps, they seem to be missing on the sort of punk, high energy thing. I notice.
Yeah.
And what I find kind of either interesting and somewhat frustrating in equal measure is it's as if like within that world, they still see punk as some sort of, subgenre, some kind of, well, they can't really play. It's a bit of a racket. It's not serious music or whatever, I'm not saying everybody thinks like that,
Yeah.
but that is still the impression that's out there, because just look and tell me where you see it represented,
Yeah.
And I look at it and think, well, I think that's somewhat ridiculous, because that's a very poor sort of like a representation of the state of play currently. I mean, Green Day, they're one of the biggest bands in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, they're seriously one of the biggest bands. They've sold nearly or as much records as Michael Jackson. It's that level big.
Right.
Followed closely by The Offspring, Blink 182.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking here about what might be to do with personal taste or what people define as, punk or that kind of music. But, they are punk bands. Dave Grohl, one of the biggest rock stars in the world. He's a punk drummer. He comes from punk drumming.
Absolutely.
He's not just like a standard rock drummer. He's not a prog rock drummer. He's not, just an alternative rock drummer. He comes from, the same thing,
Yeah, exactly.
So, Turnstile, I mean, I say up and coming, a very, established, not new, but new in the grand scheme of things. I've just won a Grammy.
Yeah.
And yet, when I look at a lot of lineups, I see the prog rock, I see the jazz, I see, the kind of, the math rock players, but I don't see anything representing, the punk end of things.
Yeah.
And I think that that's very odd when we actually look at, the popularities, in music. I mean, punk overshadows a lot of them by a long way.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's more. I see more of it in Europe, in places like Switzerland, Germany, Poland. Those countries. That it seems to be more. What should I say? Popular. I mean, it's still not mainstream as such.
Yeah.
But, talking about Green Day, I have to tell you something funny that happened at the Galway Drum Show. We had Nick Collins, and Nick was fantastic as always. John Riley, fabulous jazz drummer John, who was amazing. When Nick did he did 3 songs. He did one from his own band, one Genesis, and one that Kaz recorded for him, or wrote for him, should I say.
Yes.
And then afterwards, he opened the floor up and the place was packed. It's a fantastic show. Opened the floor up for questions, and this young girl asked him, first of all, did he know any famous drummers?
Yeah.
That was quite funny. And then there was another lad asked him, had he ever played with any famous bands?
Yeah.
Like Green Day.
Really, yeah.
And it was absolutely priceless, but I mean, they are huge, and as you say, there's not a lot of difference. I mean, the punk bands just were the bad boys, weren't they?
Yeah.
How bad were you, Spike?
Well.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, I'm all about spreading the positive vibes. I am.
Exactly.
I'm about sharing the love and and encouraging. So not everybody's bad. I mean, sometimes like it's bad to be good. In the sense, like Bad Brains, it's like it's like it's saying like, look, we're on fire, we're bad as in we're bad.
Exactly, and it's an image.
We're cool. We're trying to spread the vibe or share a message or and stuff like that. But that's what, like, so what, going back with the educational side of things, that's what I like. I mean, it's not like, I don't want to sound like when I go to these events or whatever that, that I'm represented, that I don't feel like a kind of respect for that style of music. It just seems to be overlooked.
Yeah, no, I get it. Absolutely.
I mean, if you look at, like you said, like the Palace Drum Clinic app, that's not overlooked because, I'm there, I mean, when I've gone to Freddie G, it's not overlooked there. I've gone there as a guest, teacher. And I've done performances there on different occasions. It's not overlooked there. Or I've gone to certain, BIMs, and it's not overlooked there. And when I do it in any of these places, there's always a great interest,
Absolutely.
because I suppose the thing is that, I don't want to say that the people in these places are starved of it, but they kind of are, because, the chances are, if you've gone to even a handful of, like shows or any kind of educational thing, and I mean, clinics aren't, obviously a thing that they once were, then there's a good chance that you've seen, like some really great rock metal drummers. You've bound to have been blown away by a jazzer, some, jazz fusion. There's a lot of things that are quite covered. Some these days, some YouTube, kind of sensation. They're all kind of covered, but there are still areas that, like I said, with what I do or try and push, that I feel are still somewhat underrepresented,
Yeah, yeah.
It's not an opinion, really. I think it's fact, because, it's like,
And I think there's a huge respect for it particularly from other drummers as well, because, that people may think, oh, it's just noise, but try playing it.
That's right. Yeah, well, I mean,
It's not easy.
like, I mean, I often say this, and I'm glad it is for this, because this is how I got into the music, and I'm sure a lot of other people. It seems, deceptively simple, and on the surface it is, but that doesn't mean it's easy to play.
No, definitely not. No, it's
That's the thing. It's
up
like,
there.
when you're trying to play the tempos you have to play, or, you've got to keep the consistency and the power, um,
You've got to be.
throughout the whole song. You can't falter. Not that people in other musics falter, but they're not pushed, necessarily in the sort of, like in the, in your heart rate or the BPMs that you're working at to the same extent.
And you've got to be really fit to be able to keep that consistency. I wanted to ask you about that, Spike. What do you do to keep fit? Or does the drumming itself keep you fit?
Well, the drumming, yeah. I mean, I like to do things away from the drumming. I mean, it's not so much when I was younger, I didn't think of these things, but I suppose, when you're younger, like, I mean, I used to walk a lot. I used to ride my bike, before I could drive a car and things like that. You've got things that, yeah, you're hanging out a lot, and you're walking around with your friends, and, you're much more active than when you're a bit older.
Yeah.
But I've tried to, like, always kind of retain those things, so I like, going out for a spin on my bike, a bicycle, that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will still walk to the city from where if there's certain things that I have, like, that, like if I live, say, like a mile from a city, which I do,
Yeah.
I never think of, jumping in the car to go there to do something.
Yeah.
I always walk. And I used to be like that when I was very young in North Wales, but now I go running. I use the gym, not to the extent that I'm bodybuilding, but just to kind of to sort of like to have your body pushed a little bit, the
Right.
same way it feels when you're playing a show,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
so but I like to do a bit of that. I've always been that kind of person. I'm not sporty at all,
No.
but I do, like I do like to exert energy.
Yeah. Oh, you definitely got the energy, Spike, and you always look immaculate. I mean, the hair, the hair, your hair is all. Every time I see you, your hair's immaculate.
Oh, thank you.
And did you? Was it higher than that at one stage?
Well,
Did you have it?
I'm not sort of somebody that's normally had sort of Mohicans so much. I mean, I tended to, back in the day, to have more sort of Sid Vicious style spiky hair.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was always dark haired when I was younger. So, and I like that. I like the Sid Vicious look.
Well, the red's
And
brilliant.
yeah,
I love the red.
so. And I still do. But you probably, I'm sure you remember in lockdown, we all do, the limitations. And one was, like for me is, was access to somebody that could cut your hair.
Yeah.
Like, i.e. barber, hairdresser, whatever you use. I've always had hairstyles.
Yeah.
Be it, I mean, I've gone through everything, but be it obviously spiky hair. I've had the sort of rock and roll quiffs. I've had long hair. I've had dreadlocks. The whole works. But in lockdown, of course, nobody could do anything, and the hairstyle that I had then was something of a quiff. Just got was growing and growing out and out and out, and then I said I had a Mohican before, but I said to my wife and kids at one point, when we were talking about it and everybody's complaining about the state there, the hairstyles. I said, you know what? When they open again, I'm going to go and have a bloody Mohican. I am something that's easy to look after.
Brilliant.
So that's what I said. So when they first opened, I don't know how it was in Ireland, but here, and it's probably the same, you had to make an appointment.
Yeah.
And they were expensive.
Yeah.
Because I suppose they were trying to claw, all their, like the money that we'd all lost, And so I thought, right, okay. So when I went there, they were, used to doing a certain haircut for me, but it'd been, of course, months. And they said, oh, the usual. And I went with my son, actually, I remember. And we both sat in the chairs. And I says, oh, no, I want a mohawk. And, the guy was laughing. Oh, yeah. And I was like, no, I want you, to cut it into a mohawk. So I did. And anyway, I went home with it. And of course, my wife and daughter were surprised, not surprised that I did it. But I called it my lockdown haircut,
Yeah. Well,
it
worked.
Yeah, but I ended up, one thing led as it opened up. I started to get, like work with bands, and then, I was having photos with them and things like that. And I realized I've kind of got a look again now,
Yeah, definitely.
And I kind of quite liked it. It was the first time that I'd had a bit of for many years, a kind of slightly turn people's heads hairstyle,
I love it.
When I first did it, I wasn't thinking. I'd sort of think, is that person looking at me for, or hold on, why are they looking at me? Just and then I thought, oh, it's the hair,
Brilliant. Can we talk a bit about gear and what you use, and do you endorse any particular
I do.
brand? What do you use?
Well, I am with the Tal drums.
Yeah.
And I've been with the Tal drums, let me think, about probably 3 years now. Maybe I first started, talking with them coming on 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But I've certainly been with them and had, kits from them for the past 3 years. And I love them, and
Great.
they got a good range of drums. They made me a lovely kit. And I've got, like a kit that I've got here that's made up for two kits, actually. Well, I say I've split it to two kits,
Right.
but when I was doing the death metal stuff, I needed a double bass drum kit, and I had quite an array of toms, quite an expansive kit
Yeah.
that I was using for that, and that I can pick the sizes of if I want it, like a somewhat smaller setup. So, and I use, like a Natal birch wood kit with Sham. The kit that I've got here, that's here behind me,
Yeah.
is a maple. Zildjian cymbals. I just recently, sorry, not literally, recently got my 30th anniversary certificate. So I've been with Zildjian, since 1995.
Amazing.
So,
Yeah.
I like to stay loyal to the gear, that I use, because I don't switch about much.
Yeah.
I mean, before I was with Natal, I'd been with Pearl, 20 plus years,
Right.
but Pearl didn't have an outlet in the UK, and a lot of change. When I first was with them, they did.
Yeah.
And something that I wanted, that got lost with them, for me at least, was that I didn't have somewhere that I could go to maybe try gear or to take something back if I needed something changed. And the Tal are great because, they're under Marshall, and they're based, in Milton Keynes, or
Right.
Bletchley, actually. But let's call it Milton Keynes. So it's not far from me. It's, so I can go over there, and yeah, I love it. If I need to, maybe I want a particular drum for something, for instance, when I was with HR last year playing the reggae, I mean, I got a lovely selection of snares, but I didn't have something that really was, complete reggae,
Yeah.
So, and I thought, I know what I'd really could do with it. I could do with like just a 14x5 simple metal, a steel snare,
Yeah.
the same as like Carlton Barrett would have used with Bob Marley and the Wailers. And
Yeah.
so, that was something that with a towel, I could get,
Oh, great.
and they had a beautiful. It wasn't one that was manufactured. It was one that they were sort of testing out. So I had that for a while. That sounded great, but now I've just I took that back. What do you call it when they've got something that they're in the word?
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean. Prototype.
Prototype. Yeah, it was a prototype. Sorry. And so I had that, and I used that for the tour, but I gave it back then because obviously it was a prototype and they wanted it to continue with whatever they wanted to try with it. But I got just a nice, other simple metal snare that I've now got in my armory for whenever I'm doing that kind of stuff.
That's
Actually,
great.
here, I've got it just here.
Yeah.
So,
So have you got any things coming up like that?
Like I love the drums, and I love the relationship I have with the people there.
Yeah.
They're great guys.
And have you got anything coming up that you'd like to tell us about? Can we see you playing somewhere soon?
Yeah, well, I mean, this year, I mean, the playing is kind of, or the shows are just kind of coming in. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty much, like the live work currently is with Sham. Is with Sham 69, and that's because this year, it's the 50th year of punk. So there's a lot of bands that are having that are still about, Ali, that are celebrating their 50th anniversary.
That's
Sham
amazing.
69 being one of them. Sex
Wow.
Pistols, of course, The Damned, Buzzcocks, others 999. There's probably a load more.
Yeah.
So we'll be playing that Rebellion Festival, the big punk festival that happens in Blackpool. So we've got a night, we're headlining one of the Friday night there. I'm pretty certain. And then our own shows and other things like that. So this year's looking like primarily going to be filled with that kind of activity. So yeah, hopefully anybody who's watching or is interested, or they'll get the opportunity to to come and watch us or to come and see me. And
Yeah.
I'd like to get over to Ireland again.
I would love you to come over to Ireland. Oh, definitely. I'm in my drum studio right now, Spike, so we can do
same as me.
Small master classes over here, and
Yeah, you have to get me over.
I'll definitely put the word out and see if we can get something arranged.
I'd love to get over
That would be fabulous. Yeah, I don't think they've.
Are you based in Galway? Yeah.
No, well, not far. I'm about an hour. I'm about an hour outside of Galway, or an hour and 20 maybe. The west of Ireland in County Mayo. Mayo.
Yeah. I know Ireland quite well, and I've toured there. Like on a bunch of occasions.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you when we met before, but last year we played in Belfast, and that was great.
Oh, yes.
The Stiff Little Fingers.
Yeah.
All day, and that was fantastic.
Yeah.
But, I played in Galway as well, and
you've just
all over the place there.
Yeah, and you've played. I mean, you just mentioned Stiff Little Fingers. I mean, there's so many bands that you've played with. We haven't even scratched the surface of everything that you've done. We have to do another one of these, Spike, so that we can go through
I wasn't
all the
Stiff
bands.
Little Fingers of that. It was with Sham on line of sorry, just to
It
make
was
that.
on there. Oh, sorry, I thought you were drumming with them as well.
There are a bunch of other ones that we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
Like New York Dolls. And,
yes.
And more. So GBH.
I want to ask you. Is there a standout gig? Is there one that was like particularly crazy, or one that you felt was like?
What did it stand out for? What reason? I'll tell you one that was a standout. I mean, there's a lot of standouts. I mean, I played the first Coachella festival with Morrissey. I mean, that was a standout moment.
I bet.
Not necessarily for all the reasons that somebody might think stand out, but it stood out. It's one that stands out. There was playing. There's lots of things. I mean, playing. When I got to play in Las Vegas, I played in Las Vegas a bunch of times. That's been amazing. There's one gig that stands out, for me, because it's quite poignant now. But I played in the band called Conflict for 11 years, and we'd gone over to play Punk Rock Bowl in Las Vegas. It's a yearly punk festival in Las Vegas, very good festival. And we'd gone over there, and then we just had some other shows around it, to justify the travel and the expense of getting over there. And so we Conflict did well in California and well, on the coasts of America, like a lot of those kind of bands do. I mean, we could play a good bigger size club, and it would sell out and be full. Or we could play, in San Francisco, in LA, in San Diego, in Las Vegas, New York, Chicago, and they wherever we played, which was the right size for that band, it would be full. But we decided to do, because they were Conflict with a very sort of politicized band, but we played this show in LA, a benefit show, and it was a very small venue, but it was 3 venues, like you get in a lot of places, they've got their bigger room, or maybe they've got a medium room and a small room. So, but it was all still quite small, but the main room held, let's say, 300 people, but the capacity of the whole building was 600 or 700.
Right.
Anyway, they sold, like 700 tickets for our show, and everybody was in that tiny room. It came up as a memory recently. The reason I'm saying it's poignant is because the singer died. Colin Durwood, the singer and founder of the band, died last summer. And just before it, I'd had this you know, like how you get like Facebook memories now, you know, about this show. And
Yeah.
it was so packed. It was the stage was tiny,
Yeah.
and it was just bedlam in there, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, we had a guy that was, well, we had, you know, like a few people that were sort of in this, you know, like crew. But on that night, they were like, well, it's only a small show. We're not going to bother. But, you know, they had to come. But as soon as it started, they were on the stage trying to act as security. The band were having to act as security because the audience was just spilling onto the stage. There was nowhere for them to go, you know.
Unbelievable.
They were right in, and I was trying to play like this because, you know, the cymbals and everything were getting thrown into me, you know. It
Oh,
was chaos, but it was a beautiful chaos, but it was somewhat dangerous,
right. Oh
you
my
know.
God.
And I don't mean in a rock and roll dangerous, I mean as
Yeah.
in dangerous, you know. I mean, if something had gone wrong, you know, it was a room that was grossly overpacked, you know.
Incredible.
But they'd got away with it because, you know, as you can imagine, the other two venue rooms were empty, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So that's one that stands out. But there's the standing out thing, you know, that, you know, you know, there's so many of them, you
I'm
know. It's
sure.
I don't mean that in a sort of like, you know, yeah, I've had so many of them. It's just, you know, I
No,
don't take any of it for
but you
granted.
have. You have. And, you know, if we could talk for days about
Yeah,
it all because you've done so much, Spike, and still are, you know, and it's fantastic what you're doing for the drumming community and from an educational perspective as well, and
yeah,
just,
thank
you know,
you.
the support for drummers. So I think we've got to do another one, most
Mm.
definitely. And
Yeah, I'll be happy to.
I just want to thank you so much, you know, for talking with us. Um,
Yeah, anytime.
and when you've got your dates, you know, for your gigs, let us know so we can put them up on Drummers Universe, let people know where you are and what you're doing.
Yeah,
And we're so happy, you know, to have you as part of the team of Pro Art.
yeah, no, thank you. I'm a big supporter of everything that you're doing, and you know, and more power to you. And anybody that's following you, you know, if they see that I'm playing, you know, come along, come and say hello. And I'm always, you know, happy to speak to people, and you know, I love it. You know, I love meeting people. I love talking drums. It's, you know, can't get enough of it, me, Ellie.
Oh, well, hopefully I'll see you in Liverpool in October, if
Oh,
not
yes.
before, and
Yeah.
let's talk about, you know, how we can have you come over to Ireland and
Yeah,
some of
definitely.
your stuff over
Yeah.
here. And
Oh,
maybe
I'd love to do that.
the Galway drum show is phenomenal. So
I've heard. Yeah. I mean, I was looking at
absolutely.
whatever post you've been putting up, or somebody put a little video. It looked
Yeah.
really, really great. And I mean, you know, great on you all doing that. I mean, anybody that's doing, you know, like what you're doing, or you know what George Frederick does with Freddie G, or you know, like Matt's doing with North Wales Drum
Oh,
Promotions.
that's
You know,
great.
I think it's great
Yeah.
what everybody's doing, because it's somewhat back to DIY again, isn't it? A little bit,
Yeah,
you know, it's people
definitely.
doing it, and because I come, you know, the punk thing is all about that. I mean, that's, you know, why I've continued to do what I've done. I've always, you know, you know, I've always kind of tried to maintain a level of work, and you know, I don't shy away from things. That's why I don't just, you know, think of myself as just playing. Is why I got into, you know, the educational side of things a long time ago.
Yeah,
You know, I wasn't forced into it. Like
yeah,
sometimes you sometimes see people saying now, oh, you can't just do this, you've got to do this, that, and the other. But I believed in doing all of that, you know, years ago. In fact, to me, that's part of the appeal of it. You
right,
know, I
right.
like coming and sharing my knowledge, but then, you know, I like going out and then playing, you know, playing as well, you know, and I love playing the songs that I play that I grew up on. And, but I love, you know, being creative, and I was lucky when I was with the death metal band Memoriam to do 2 albums, you know, in a genre of music that I wasn't, you know, it wasn't a form of music that I spent a lot of time investigating.
Right.
So it was very interesting to do that. So yeah, I'm a fan.
Well, I'm getting the signal from the filming person that I think we're out of time almost. So
Okay.
just to wrap up, thank you once again, Spike,
Well,
and
thank you for
all the
having
best
me.
with everything that you're doing, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank you, Ellie.
Thanks, Spike.
Bye now.
Bye.
Drummers Universe.